Hello, welcome, Lucid community. I'm so glad to have with me Dr. Sarah Daccarett. Otherwise, did I pronounce that right?
Yes, close.
From Dr. D. We're going to call it Dr. D from Inner Balance. Dr. D, welcome.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Yeah, so Lucid Women, this one's for you. Lucid Women, this one's for you. Um, I'm so fascinated with your brand. You and I were talking about the the kind of the physical. I'm not going to butcher what inner balance does, but I'm going to kind of mention the Lucid community. You and I were having this conversation about, in recovery, there's all these different things that we need to do to feel better, but there's actually things that we could do to feel better from the physical side that probably no mental work is going to accomplish, right? Because the female body works in a very specific way that Dr. D is going to explain. And I think it's really, really important because if we don't understand how our bodies work, from my standpoint, if we don't have a well-rounded understanding of the physical component, then we're going to wonder why we're feeling a certain way in areas that can completely be addressed. So that's why I'm very excited to have Inner Balance for our lucid women. So let's talk about what is Inner Balance and kind of like what was the genesis of how it was created, why it was created.
Thanks, MJ. Yeah, let's dive in. I start with inner balance is different than traditional approach. And let's talk about women's hormones first. So you said it perfectly that we have to understand our biology and our bodies
Yep.
and how important sex hormones are, especially for women. And men, for example, their testosterone drops and they'll get a few symptoms. But and some of them get more than others, but in general, women, when their estrogen and progesterone drop, they get hundreds of symptoms. And this can be anything from anxiety, depression, irritability, to insomnia, to physical signs of aging. This is like really dramatic for women, and they don't recognize that they think it's stress. They like attribute it to their kids or their job or their lifestyle or increased cortisol or something, and they don't recognize that their hormones are dropping. And so
Mm.
we tell women to wait until menopause, for example, till they're like in their 50s. So women don't even really think about this. Like these are young women in their 30s, sometimes 20s now, that are experiencing this drop off. And I'll get to like the community and why that's important and why it matters to you. But first, we used to think of hormones as just they're gone once your period stops at age 55 or 51 or whenever it happens, right?
Yeah.
And then we would just treat you just to get you through menopause, just to treat like these horrible symptoms of like hot flashes or vaginal dryness. But now there's like a cultural shift and it's very powerful where women are recognizing that we should feel good and look good like our entire life in our 30s, 40s, and 50s and beyond. And we can use hormone replacement therapy or these sex hormones as a tool for not only longevity, but disease prevention and feeling amazing, right? And and it's like I know a lot of you are beating your head against the wall, but you're doing everything, right? You're doing all the mental work, you're doing all the things to feel good, you're doing the diet and the exercise and the supplements, and still not getting there. You're still potentially like feeling like you're kind of running in place. And this feeling is because you're not being supported by your hormones effectively. And if women understood how powerful they were in the brain and our immune system, like everything, how they control and regulate like every process in the body, then they would get started earlier and they would benefit from that. And so like I'll let you talk in a second, but I was like, you're talking about how it relates to alcohol, for example,
Yeah.
or like addiction. And the hormones regulate dopamine, norepinephrine,
Yep.
serotonin, blood sugar regulation. You regulate sleep. They regulate anxiety reduction. If I didn't mention cortisol, they do. So it
Yep.
prevents cortisol from being overproduced. It regulates appetite. And we can talk about appetite more because we know all these pathways. Appetite has a lot to do with addiction. We know that the dopamine pathways also play a role. And there's some, women like very much need hormones in order to control these pathways. So if you feel like your cravings are completely out of control, I mean, I have women coming into the clinic. when I was a clinic. Now I'm online, but they would tell me like they, in addition to all the other problems that they have, like their intimacy, they wanted more sex drive, more energy, more mental clarity, like their hair and skin, and they wanted all the things. But they were also mentioning, hey, I'm drinking 3 glasses of wine a night. I know it's not right, but I also can't stop it. Like I'm like it's just this craving, like, and I know that it's wrong or that I need to stop. And so once they start on hormone replacement therapy that's appropriate for them, they don't crave it anymore. We've controlled these dopamine and create these pathways that are in charge of appetite, GLP-1, craving, dopamine, and it suppresses this in the brain and allows them to feel normal and stable. They're sleeping better, and it just like isn't a thing anymore. They come back in and they're like just not even drinking anymore. And so whether you're trying to drink less or whether you're trying to maintain your sobriety, it definitely supports you in this because you're not alone. Like you're not just grinning and bearing it, right? Like you're not just like using your tools that learn in therapy, which are important too. Like I'm not saying that we don't need those as well, but it helps you from a biological standpoint because a lot of this is biology. This addiction is pure biology, I would argue.
Yep.
We can talk about trauma and a lot of different things, but I think in reality, it's just some people need more dopamine and they need it at different levels. And this definitely plays a role in addiction.
Yeah, listen, it's fascinating. It's interesting. The more and more, so like in general, I understand about like I had a number of episodes where we discussed brain health with companies like Brain Tap, which is this amazing brain fitness app, and Muse, and now going into women's specific and how the body works is amazing because we, you know, so many people think that there's only kind of like, hey, if you do this, everything will go away, or if you do that, everything will go away. And Lucid's approach to sobriety is holistic from the standpoint of when we remove the drink or the drug, um, what can we do to to feel better physically, one bucket, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, right? Because I remember like my ex-girlfriend, we still joke to this day. I'm like, we're like besties. Like during a certain time of the month, like I would just stay away from her, right? Like and then she would eat like she would have these cravings, right? But if you really look seriously, there are very, very specific things happening in the female body that need to be addressed. Um, and and once you're able to kind of do that, it's almost like when you look at a problem, we in for Lucid, I'll talk about it as technology. When we look at a problem that's happening in the app, like a bug, right? We say, all right, well, let's take away this variant, meaning, okay, well, it's not this section of the app. It's not that section of app. And so and then you get down to where the kind of the challenges are. So if someone's not feeling well and there's areas that they could be doing way better on a physical side, we want to make sure they get all the physical support they need. So then if they're not feeling well, we're like, all right, Dr. D already got y'all covered on the inner balance side. So there should be nothing, all the boxes are checked there. Because if then you go here, but then there's a variant that didn't get addressed, then you never, it's like whack-a-mole. You know that game whack-a-mole. You're hitting one thing and something else is popping up and you never address it. So I think that at its very core level, if for the lucid women out there, I think it's so important as a first step to make sure that your body is regulating properly. And then as you go through, the mental component and, and the other areas, the emotional component, well, the emotional is attached to the physical too. So there's there's so much importance on focusing on what's happening on the physical level, and then everything else can be addressed from there. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about I'm having a freaking bad hair day. Okay. It's better. So, um,
I can dive into more about that, those specific physical aspects that we support. Like, really, I think if women understood that.
yeah. So dive into the physical aspects. And then I also want to see like what was like the genesis of the creation? What popped into your mind to create a solution for this? But yeah, go into the specifics of what's happening inside of the female body and what's being addressed and what needs to be addressed.
Definitely. And I agree that if you don't provide that physical support, the support to the biology, to the body,
Yep.
then you will not be as successful. You're asking a lot from that person. I really think that you are just to like just do it. They don't have they need the support from the physical body. One
Yep.
is like withdrawal symptoms or just that craving. And you're constantly, it's not just behavior. Like I want women to know that it's not just some of it's behavior, like a behavioral thing or um, but I think a lot of it's biology. Like when you have specific receptors in the body that are hit with alcohol and the same ones are being covered with hormones. So, for example, GABA receptors. Progesterone in a female body, progesterone is our main hormone. It is the most abundant hormone. It's not estrogen or testosterone, it's progesterone, and it binds to GABA receptors. The metabolites of progesterone bind to GABA receptors. It's literally nature's benzodiazepine for us. So
Mm,
when women are craving alcohol, their progesterone is low, right? Like those receptors are open and free, and they're basically like free for the alcohol, and that's why they get what they need from the alcohol. But
mhm.
if they had progesterone present, they wouldn't crave the alcohol as much. Their withdrawal would be better as well because those GABA receptors would be occupied by progesterone. It's literally why pregnant women are the most calm, chill people on the planet. Have you ever seen a pregnant woman? You wonder like how she can stand like small screaming kids
Yeah.
around her. It's like nature's way of making us very tolerant of like men and children. And this is like why, I mean, that's why it's such a like an important thing for women. And it's our
Is
biology.
it that hard to tolerate, men?
Yeah, again, but well, I think that, but I mean,
That was
when
rhetorical.
as they get older too, like women find that they are not attracted to their partner anymore, their male partner, and
Yep.
it's like, and it is this drop off in hormones because it is part of sexual hormones are definitely involved in that as well. So, and then estrogen raises dopamine. And so when you have an addiction pathway that's like needing dopamine rush and your dopamine is low, right? Because your hormones are low and your estrogen is low, you're going to get brain fog and you are going to feel better when you get like a dopamine hit. And this drives that addiction. And so if you supplement and make sure that your estrogen and progesterone are appropriate and like optimal, these pathways are optimal. So you're not like looking for a substance to do that for you.
Mm,
Substance is kind of the estrogen and progesterone. It's like the best. It's not a drug, right? It's a natural hormone that's found in nature, but it's definitely the best. Like it's going to make you feel the very calm and stable and centered and much like yourself. And this is what we want. And whereas like alcohol steals that from you, alcohol changes like neurochemistry. It destabilizes your blood sugar. Steals and hijacks your brain reward pathways, right? And so
mm,
and when you've been drinking alcohol for many years, for example, and then you try to stop in order to fix those neural pathways, you want to supplement your estrogen progesterone. And another big thing that really we know now after all I'm sure you've Ozempic and Mounjaro and all the
yep.
fancy injections. Yeah. So we saw that people have a reduced alcohol craving with them, which I'm sure your community is like well aware of that. And it's because we're GLP-1, we're raising this.
What is GLP-1?
It's a, it's called glucagon-like peptide 1.
Hmm.
And it's a peptide, a natural occurring peptide in the body. And
Hmm.
we've known about it for a long time. So when you're replacing it, we're actually just replacing something the body is no longer making. But I want the women out there to understand, and this happens both in men and women, but since we're talking just women, estrogen raises your GLP-1. Like
Hmm.
if, and so it also satisfies this, like it's a natural way to raise GLP-1 and reduce this craving without having to do a pharmaceutical injection, which I know some people that have really benefited, right? They were drinking like a bottle of wine a night and then stopped with these injections. So there's a place for them but if we look at hormones and their role, they definitely would help women with just this it's like it's really it's a reward sensitivity, right? So
Hmm.
GLP-1 is not just dopamine, but GLP-1 is involved in this reward pathway. It's also involved in appetite and craving control and blood sugar stabilization. And all of these are part of this cravings that cause women to drink more. So
Hmm.
you have this compulsive drive to drink alcohol. it's even like the gut also plays a role in this craving for alcohol. So if you can GLP-1, if you're raising GLP-1 and normalizing the receptors and the pathways in the gut and the brain, you
Yep.
also you can stop this like kind of compulsive emotional. There's an emotional compulsive component to it as well for women that drink, and this can go away. And this we've just seen this over and over again. So this is women specific, although men also get a reduced craving with the GLP-1s and estrogen as well. Men need estrogen too in a smaller amount, like a tinier amount,
Well, I
obviously.
think it's also important for the lucid men to listen to this because you may have a partner who you need to understand what your, let me be clear. If it's a male if it's a heterosexual man to a female, or if it's a female to a female, whatever it is, just to be clear, we're just taking an example. But if it's a female lucid listener that wants to understand her body, obviously, if she has a female partner, then both females want to understand that. If it's a male looking, for what really why the woman is acting the way she may be acting, it's almost like in addiction. There's a saying: "Those amongst us, no explanation is necessary; those not amongst us, no explanation is possible." So you need to understand what's going on with the woman in order to really have any kind of, you need to have empathy, right? You can't just be like, oh my God, she's being a jerk, right? Like, and this is personal to you. It's I'm reading off of Inner Balance. In my mid 30s, after the birth of my son, my hormone levels never recovered. After trying every available product, I realized there were no solutions specifically to meet the needs of younger women who want to feel young and vibrant again. You also realize you weren't alone, that hormone levels decline drastically in our 30s, not just when our period stops in our 50s. Then you talked about people are often misdiagnosed, mistreated, or blown off as just being part of being a woman, just part of aging, you're too young, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the creation of this came from a pain point that you were having when, after you gave birth to your son.
Yeah, I always say that I created inner balance because I needed it. It's a solution, not a necessity for myself. And when I was in my mid 30s, and um, I looking back, I probably always had maybe hormonal deficiencies. There was always like, and we could get into like a genetic thing eventually, but I think that there is, I'm not definitely not alone. Like I have thousands of women like go through this in their 30s. So this is not an early thing for me at all. This is just pretty much the normal. It's just that women blow it off, or they think that they have to put up with it. This is part of aging. And then they'll literally do every supplement and every face cream and that they can possibly find to feel
Yep.
better. And then but the real problem was that our solutions were literally designed for a 50-year-old or above, right? So somebody not having a period anymore, that's what the solutions were out there for. We're a decade behind men's health and hormone replacement therapy. And so when I tried all of the products that were there, patches and pills and low-dose vaginal creams, I didn't feel anything. It's like
Right.
spitting into the ocean. For like a young woman, she's not going to feel that. She needs a lot more hormone in order to feel herself. And that's where the idea of inner balance is, that it's more custom and personalized and accessible. And we're not going to like gaslight anybody. And you can just try it. And so putting it online, and we're almost in 50 states now. And this is where my own personal experience, though, of needing that progesterone, like seeing that, and then over time, like years, the inner balance took years to formulate. It wasn't just like overnight. I mean, 10 years actually to get the dosing and the formulation right, the ratios to look at how we're approaching women's health incorrectly now and how we view hormones the wrong way in women. Like, for example, if you give a woman testosterone, which is a really common practice, she may get worse. She might get more irritable and depressed and might reach for like other things first. She's not going to get any better, and you're not protecting her. So, um, yeah, this is like, I think this is, and anxiety, for example, in depression and irritability, the mental health aspect is huge in young women. This is actually very universal, and it's the first thing that happens. And I think it ties into what you do at Lucid, because women are, they start drinking early because of and all the drinking makes it worse. Women are still looking for a solution to their anxiety. They're being gaslighted and told that they need a pharmaceutical, or they need an antidepressant, or they need therapy, right? When you just need therapy, and yeah, I get therapy's fine. Like I think everybody needs it, but there is a like we keep talking about, there's a physiological reason why you're having all this anxiety and irritability and depression that maybe you need to look at a root cause.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that, you have, by the way, there's a wealth of information. If you go to Inner Balance and you hit the tab, the science behind it, it's pretty fascinating. Again, I remember my father, rest in peace, used to always say, Michael, don't ever try to understand women. And he wasn't saying that in any other way than the truth. Like the body of a woman works very differently than the body of a man. I remember I did an episode where I was talking to someone who was talking about how even the ethanol in alcohol is processed differently in women and men. It increases and elevates the risk of cancer, and so it's super important to understand the difference and the needs of women compared to men because it's real. There's science behind it. And we want to give you the best chance that we can to surround you with all the different ways that you can help yourself because like recovery's is a big thing, meaning people think that, and myself included, that removing, once I removed alcohol and drugs, everything was just going to be, you know, rainbows and pussycats, right? Or whatever the frickin', rainbows and unicorns. There it is. And that's just not the case. There's so much that goes on that I've learned over the last short time that I've done so many of these episodes and seeing the oxytocin and all these chemicals and what happens when we're doing drugs and alcohol and how we need to kind of hack our systems, so to speak, to emulate some of those same chemical releases that we were getting from um, from the alcohol and the substances. And I said this to someone on, I think it was last week, another great brain health company, that what I want to do is bring all these freaking fascinating brands and individuals like you, Dr. Porter from Brain Tap, the woman that runs Sleep Reset, on sleep science, and bring everybody together in a room to help educate our community because it's just so important that we attack all levels of and everybody has their own specific stomping ground, right? But when you put it all together, there's just so much that we can do to help the recovery process as a whole. Because recovery is not an easy thing, and we're just trying to give people as many tools as possible to give them the kind of the smoothest transition. Not that any transition is necessarily smooth, right?
No, for sure. But the hormones absolutely will support you during that transition and like complete recovery after and just feeling good. Like you want to feel good. Like everybody wants to feel good. And women are a different species than men, like literally, but all the research is done on men. And so women need to recognize that that doesn't necessarily apply to them. Like things like fasting and some of the biohacking stuff does not apply to them.
Yep.
Same thing with hormone replacement therapy has not been well studied in women. And like when you're wanting to replace that same feeling that the substance is providing, for example, when you're in recovery,
Right.
hormones like will provide this. Like if you look at the receptor for MDMA, you can get the same estrogen binds to this receptor.
Oh, I love that. Yes,
Same,
that was what I was talking about. It was
like
like you could hack, you
you
could,
can hack it. It's
yeah.
but hormone replacement therapy for women in a way that we're talking about it, using it as a tool, it is the ultimate biohacking for women. It is foundational. It is like for the masses. Like you don't have to the cold, like all the other things to like feel well work, but hormone replacement therapy is it. Like if you want to get this same feeling that you're getting, you should see how estrogen and progesterone, when you get them optimal, how well you can feel on it. And it is like euphoric. You have, we talk about libido, for example, for women and this MDMA receptor, you estrogen binds and it gives you a more open receptive
Hmm.
libido, which is what a female libido is. And when we look at, it's totally different than a male one, right? And so we need to recognize the differences just in the sex hormones and how they play out. But you want her to feel like the same way that substance was providing, and hormones are the answer to that. Like I've not seen anything else. Like I know there's peptides, there's microdosing of psychedelics. There's a lot of things out there
Yeah.
that people have touted, and I've seen, microdosing ketamine and microdosing psilocybin. These do raise and like flatten the brain architecture and manipulate and potentially raise dopamine and serotonin and whatever they're doing. I think they're flattening the landscape is really what it looks like. And you do get some initial relief, but you're not going to get anything like you would with your sex hormones. Like I guarantee it. Like if women understood how good you could feel on them and how stable and calm and centered and like all the things we're looking for. And so women need to understand too that there's like 30% at least of the population that's genetically susceptible to addiction. And like there's not a lot of research to support this, but I've just seen over and over and over, like hundreds, 1,000 times now in my practice of women who are a COMT variant. And maybe you've heard of this genetic variant. It's capital COMT, and they metabolize dopamine really quickly. And so when you see this COMT gene in family members, so family members will have mental health disorders and addiction problems. So virtually, like if every family I've ever met, you anecdotally ask them and they will say, yes, I have a family member that's addicted to some substance and they have a COMT gene. And so even if people understood that their genetics are playing a large role, but they can biohack it, they can hack it. And the nice thing about this is it's epigenetics. So you can change it. It's not actually your genetic code that you can't change. You can manipulate epigenetics. So for example, if you are a COMT positive carrier or hetero or homozygous, you know about yourself that you metabolize dopamine really quickly. You need more dopamine,
Hmm.
and diet can support you, but you need more estrogen than the average person because you're metabolizing estrogen and progesterone really quickly as well. So these women who have either a mental health disorder or like they're suffering, they're trying to get help for this, and they have an addiction, they likely have one of these genes. They could check these as genetic tests, so you could check it, and knowing that you need hormones, like this is part of your journey, like your story, and you do better if you can raise these. And then there's supplements that raise dopamine, like L-tyrosine. High protein diets work really effectively. We make dopamine from protein. Like we don't make it from sugar. Although we crave sugar when our dopamine's low, right? Like we'll crave
Right.
sugar and alcohol. But if you're craving sugar, it's a sign that your brain doesn't have enough dopamine and you need to eat more protein. And so women in general don't eat enough protein, like at least what I've seen, and they need to eat over 100 grams a day. But if you have an addiction, a tendency to be addicted, which I think I know personally, I would probably, and then ADHD, like they're all, a
Yeah.
lot of ADHD individuals have an addiction tendency, have a mental health either personally problem or they are the family member that has one. And so you can see this in genetic. They'll have children with ADHD. This is a diet supplement hormone that they can really hack this and feel a lot better, gain control of this mental clarity, gain control, like they have control over these pathways in knowing this. So it's very like powerful information if women understood this.
This is like an incredible wealth of information. I'm going to put you on the spot and see if you're open to at some point we could do a meeting and bring Lucid members up and have you educate them because this is just a lot of an amazing information that of course I have use for from the standpoint of understanding any women around me, right? But the woman itself needs to get this, and especially the nutrition and component that you touched upon, I think is not quote unquote part of inner balance, but maybe some great information. So maybe we do some sort of meeting where we can bring people up and that are interested in inner balance and maybe also want to kind of get an understanding of some of the stuff that you were talking about, the protein and the nutritional deficiency and blah blah blah, right?
We see a lot of our clients will have we call them fast metabolizers of hormones. And this is how we personalize therapy. So if you're on hormone replacement therapy and you find that you need more and more and it's not really covering your symptoms, we know that you're metabolizing really quickly. Labs kind of help, but they're not really that helpful. But so we'll work with women on a personal basis to say, hey, why don't you change your diet? And you can, and then you don't see it until you actually are like 3 or 6 months in, this fast metabolizer, and she presents very much the same. And she always gets better on a high protein diet. And I think that we need it's nutrition is a huge part of it because all these pathways, like the way we metabolize and get rid of hormones in the body, we methylate them. Like these big genes, like that COMT protein, literally is like a machinery that methylates and gets rid of estrogen, dopamine, and like everything. So it's like, wow, one thing gets rid of all of my important
Well,
stuff.
have you ever heard Gary Brecka?
Mhm.
And he talks about this one test that everybody should get. It's like methyl something.
MTHFR.
Ah,
MTHFR is a like a methylated, we can't methylate B proteins. And yeah, everybody should, or B vitamins, everybody should get this test. But I think that yes, it's important. I actually just don't think anybody needs this test. I'll just disagree with
yeah,
Gary, disagree with you
yeah,
because the testing is a waste of money. Like everybody just needs to be eating methylated B vitamins, really, for the most part.
right.
We shouldn't be eating a folic acid that's found like in a bread. And this can make women worse. Like women are more potentially susceptible, especially if they carry an MTHFR and a COMT gene. And so we know that like you need methylated B vitamins. We
You're
know
talking
that,
about women, just to be clear.
yeah, women.
Okay.
So men
Because I was about to run to
also
the store and get some methylated
men, no, no, no,
vitamins.
men too,
Okay.
men
Okay.
too. So like men need the methylated. So this
Yeah.
gene is very common in the population, but it's getting more attention than the COMT. It's just because like we know less about it. But men also carry COMT gene, and their testosterone reduces early and quickly as well because they're metabolizing it really fast. So men who also have, I would argue, potential for addiction or potential for mental health or have it in the family or they kind of see you can always talk to people they'll think of like yes my mother had this and my brother has this and they see it in their family my other brother has ADHD and they see it all over the family and then they realize that they have it themselves and then it's the men also see the drop off in testosterone and they do better. They need testosterone supplementation and they also need a high protein diet. So this is like not gender specific. I think the whole community, like your whole community, should consider like this, and they can you can test for it and see. But if you have the symptom, like it's pretty, if you feel better, like so, even the COMT carriers will feel better. They'll increase their protein over 100 grams a day, and they'll be like, I do feel better. I'm less tired in the afternoon. I'm sleeping better. I do notice the mental clarity. My ADHD might be a little bit better. I have a 9-year-old son who has ADHD, and it's like he does wildly better on a high protein diet, and that's all he really needs. Like they need animal-based protein too. Like this, I would argue that a plant-based diet is not like the best thing for these individuals who
Right.
are really addiction. Yeah, because we really need this
Well,
like
so let's say for any Lucid members who are vegetarian, what would you tell them to potentially supplement with?
if they're vegetarian, because I think it's healthier, then I would consider like that they consider introducing like collagen or something else that they can get their protein intake up, an animal-based protein. If they're vegetarian or vegan because of ethical reasons, there are plenty of plant-based proteins that they could increase this. It just causes a little bit more bloating, like a little bit harder to digest. But there's supplements like L-tyrosine is a really good supplement for, I think women and men recovering or trying to maintain like away from a substance because it will raise this dopamine. We convert L-tyrosine to dopamine. It's literally like an amino acid. With B6 present in the brain, your brain will make more dopamine. And you get with dopamine, I think if women, like people need to understand focus, motivation, mood, sleep, everything comes from dopamine. Like we give serotonin so much credit, and dopamine is wildly important for this. And that's why we crave substances because we love that dopamine like hit. And if we just did it with food and hormones, like you'd have a more consistent high. You'd feel like you're more focused, like you have more mental clarity, like I can remember movies like I used to.
Yeah.
You want all of that. And then you have like that ADHD really, really gets better, which I think a lot of people with addiction do have ADHD. Like I think if you think about um, anybody listening, just kind of think about your tendency to maybe like be spacey or not motivated or have a hard time focusing, or like maybe the thoughts are, and then when you raise your dopamine, that's why stimulants work. Stimulants work because they raise dopamine and then the brain calms itself and you're able to like, it's not so noisy, right? Like, because with you have all this thing going on at one time, you're having a hard time focusing on the one thing that you need to focus. And when you raise the dopamine and norepinephrine and they work together, then the brain, you're able to focus on that. And it's like a superpower. So if people recognize that this is actually your superpower, because ADHD people have the ability to hyperfocus when normal people, like I would say normal people do not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and addicts by nature are 0 or 100. There's no 50-mile-an-hour zone for people, like us. So at least that's what I've that's what I've noticed. I could see you're like freaking bubbling with passion, right? Like so, and I'm a person that my whole life is driven by this passion for, in my case, sobriety, and that because I should be dead. But when you meet people who are bubbling with so much passion, um, there's a tremendous amount. What I found is that there's just a tremendous amount of, they've crossed all their T's and dotted all their I's. Like they are so, when you're so sure about something to help people, you just can't shut up about it. And that's what I love, because when I am a, people call me overly passionate. Like I just never, my brain never shuts off. I'm a 24-hour, 7 day a week shop. My brain is, and like, it's hard to come across a person that kind of matches that passion, but you seem to kind of take the cake there.
I know, I love it. Actually, like I was minding my own business until I started going through my own problems. And I
Yeah.
realized that I didn't have the tools that I learned in medical school
Yeah.
to even help myself and like to
Yeah.
heal myself. And when you realize that's like, and when you figure it out, and I saw, and it changed my life, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm like so excited that I get to like spend the rest of my life feeling amazing.
And
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 then
then you're trying to pass that. It's like for me,
like,
I get
and I've seen it
sober.
already in like thousands of women, right? So it's like, look, it's
And,
worked. It's
and
worked.
that's the thing. It's like you get the, like with me, I get the gift of sobriety, a person that was completely hopeless, and then you want to just tell the whole frickin' world about it. So then you just you do whatever you can to kind of break down doors and sneak through windows in order to kind of get that message out. So I think that's amazing. Okay, to wrap up. So so if the women are looking at inner balance, you mentioned something like give us 180 days as an example. I think you have that somewhere. Um, like let's just say I'm a lucid woman and I'm like, okay, I'm interested. Like, what's my process here? How much time should I give it? When am I going to feel better? Like,
Yeah. I
what's
love it.
the
Thank you. This is
answer?
like a great question because everybody's question, like, how do you do it? Or like, how does
Yeah.
it start? What to expect?
Yeah.
If you're a lucid woman, you can sign up online. Sorry, so we make it super easy to sign up. You start with us, we put you on a starting dose, and you should immediately notice things like mood, anxiety, depression, irritability, vaginal dryness, and sleep get better within a couple of weeks. So we're talking 14 days, you should start to see that as one of the when we put the hormones, we have a unique formulation that we put it vaginally. And in this case, you absorb it into the bloodstream just like you would an injection. So it literally goes like right into the uterus, although you don't need to have one for it to work. And then it will go to the brain. So the uterus makes these metabolites, your body makes all these metabolites, and you get this really nice effect on the brain initially. And then you just start to see benefits over time. We want 6 months with you just so that we can make sure that we balance it. If we need to make any adjustments, we can do that because the starting dose works for a lot of women, but may not work for you. And so we won't know. There's nothing that can predict this, like no lab tests. I want women to know there's nothing. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what dose is
No.
going to be your dose. But for I've noticed in my practice, like the dose is really works really, really well for women of all ages. We would just make an adjustment. And then on month 4, we raise it. So that's why we want 6 months so that you can feel what it's like to kind of accelerate and optimize from there. You can cancel at any time though. So if you find like right away it's not for you or then it's okay. You can just cancel. We even refund like a full 6 months. So you can try it for
And if
6 months.
I'm 30-year-old woman, 35, 50, like, is it more or less applicable to someone? What if someone's 20? Like
It
what's
works for 21 and above, so
right?
this is really, and certainly the younger you are, the more you're going to need, right? So you're definitely going to want to raise the dose at 4 months with us.
Yeah.
An older woman that's over the age of 50 may not want to raise the dose. So like only a little bit might work for her just because, if you think about like a younger woman has higher metabolism, more active, needs more brain, like literally her body's like younger. She just needs more to function. Our formulation doesn't just work for like perimenopause and menopause, which is like what everybody's talking about, this kind of ovarian fatigue, but it works for endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome. So like if you're a younger woman in your 20s suffering from like really painful heavy periods, or you have inflammation or polycystic ovarian syndrome. So you see these like acting together. I think you have women with anxiety and like a mental health, or even like suffering from addiction, or trying to stay sober and still has endometriosis, like these really heavy painful periods. Because if she's got it's all over her body. It's a systemic whole body problem. It's not just like your addiction. Addiction's not, it's like not just in a box in your,
Yep.
you know, your whole body is being affected by this. So, when you have low hormones, like your entire body will feel it. And so then we follow you over time. We have a texting platform, so you can get a hold of our experts and get your questions answered. You can meet with me at any time. So we have it like it's an online approach, but very much other companies will just kind of leave you hanging. And so, and we make it as easy as possible. So other companies will do like 4 or 5 products. You have to put like a patch on and a pill. You take a pill, put a patch, use some vaginal cream, and then also take some testosterone. We have like literally, it's a pea-sized amount of cream that you put daily vaginally, a tiny amount. And you don't have to worry about contaminating your partner because, for example, with topical creams and hormones, they do actually get all over partners. Um, and so like and kids and pets. Like I've seen veterinarians like complain about the pets, like
Yep.
getting exposed to the hormone replacement therapy that's in the bed sheets and the towels. And so I don't think people need to realize that these hormone creams are not absorbing into the body. And so the vaginal kind of keeps it contained, and it also prevents contamination. So there's a lot of benefits to our approach that and that's what to expect. So you can start to kind of get better over time. So, but the cravings like go away right away. Like women will tell me even their appetite's suppressed like practically immediately by the estrogen. So like within a few weeks, they start craving like either whether it's carbs or whatever they're craving, because the cravings can be like a lot of different things. But I've just seen it over and over again. The alcohol is a huge craving reduction with hormone replacement therapy.
This is amazing. Well, Dr. D, is it right? Is it Dr. D or Dr. Sarah? What do people call you?
Both, like it's my last name's hard to pronounce. So
Okay.
Dr. Sarah is fine. Dr. D is okay.
Okay. All right. I'll go with the fine. Dr. Sarah, thank you so much. That was, this really was a wealth of information. We'll get Dr. Sarah to also, if you're open to it, meet with members of the Lucid community, in like an app, like a 1 hour, Zoom or something like that. If you're open to it, maybe we'll do that down the road. But I thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I'm super excited to have you as a partner in the Lucid marketplace, and I'm super excited for the future ahead between us and Inner Balance.
Guys, thanks for having me on.